I'll give my recommendations on Black Hat and DEFCON talks to watch.
So Matt, what happened at Black Hat and DEFCON this year?
So a lot of stuff happened at Black Hat and DEFCON this year, although probably by most people's estimation, a little less than usual. Uh, Given that we're still in a pandemic, both conferences offered people the opportunity to attend in person or remotely. I chose to attend in person, and I did have a good time, although definitely less to do in general at both events. Thankfully, a lot of these talks made it online. So I'm just going to run through some of my favorite talks, and hopefully folks will be able to get copies of some, if not all of them, or at least decent coverage of the topics that were covered inside of them. So we'll start off with Black Hat, and probably my favorite talk from that would have been Matt Tate's keynote. He talked about supply chain infections and the future of contactless deliveries. I'm not sure if this one is online anywhere. I would hope that at some point they release it. But it's an interesting take on supply chain attacks. I mean, in the last year, we've seen plenty of things. We've seen Kaseya, we've seen SolarWinds. He talked about the observability of supply chain attacks, specifically on mobile devices. He had a lot of interesting points to make about that. So I think that one, if you're looking for something that's more of a high-level talk that's still really insightful, I'd go with that. At the opposite end of that spectrum, we have Orange Sai, and his talk on proxy logon is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you're someone who runs a Microsoft Exchange server, you absolutely need to listen to this talk. He talks about proxy logon and two related bugs that have to do with Microsoft Exchange. And it is technical, and I know I have to go back and listen to it at least one more time, but maybe the technical highlight for me of the entire set of talks. And that one is available both from Black Hat and DEF CON. In fact, a lot of the talks I'm going to talk about from here on out were either at DEF CON or possibly at both. One that really kind of spoke to me was Vivek Nair's Time Turner talk. He sort of did a quote unquote hypothetical scenario where a student has to attend two courses at the exact same time and has to be present using one of those attendance and participation devices, which I think are the bane of most students' existences in college. It's a little remote device, it's wireless. He did manage to find a way to get that device to attend two classes at once by building his own replicator device. In fact, a small army of them. So this is pretty neat. And I think if you've been a student in the last decade, I would recommend you check this one out because you've probably had to deal with the frustration of these devices in the past. Roy Davis had a talk, no key, no pin, no combo, no problem, poning ATMs for fun and profit, which was pretty neat. He talked about the history of ATM hacking and then an ATM that he had purchased and wanted to get into the safe and how he went about doing that. So echoes of other famous talks in the past from Black Hat and DEF CON on ATM hacking, but definitely its own little unique story. Babak Javadi and a number of other people who, unfortunately, I don't have in my notes here, did an interesting one called The Paxman Comes for Us All about badge systems and specifically the implementation of a device that I'll say is for rapid cloning of access cards, sort of doing a little magic with one hand to clone a card and then immediately having a baked card in the other hand that you could just sort of swipe at a door. And how they achieved that, which I thought was very interesting. And of course, one of my favorite things about going to DEF CON every year is the badge. And Michael and Katie Whiteley have a talk on how they made the DEF CON 29 badge, which is a great insight into how badge making happens, particularly in a year with a chip shortage and with a very short timeline to achieve what they managed to achieve. So those are all my favorite talks. Did you guys get a chance to watch any of them?
I haven't had a chance to watch too many, although I'm actually going to talk about that proxy logon, proxy shell talk a little later in the show today.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. I know that we, of course, we start looking at the talks that are upcoming, usually a month or two in advance, especially, when it involves, the business that we're in. And I know that there was a couple talks related to, telecom and cellular. Of course, there always are. None of them, I think, were not to diminish them at all, but none of them were like earth-shattering, oh my God, the world's coming to an end type thing. But they were interesting from a technical perspective. So we did, do a little bit of research to dig into those. Most things seem to be fixed that were talked at Black Hat, which is always a good thing before it goes public. But yeah, it looked like a pretty good session. I've not heard from anyone who actually attended other than yourself. So it's good to hear that they were able to get that off the, and rolling just like almost a normal year.
Great. I recommend everybody take a look at what has been made public from the talks. There's almost certainly something in there that'll strike your interest. And not only is there the official DEF CON conference YouTube channel, but I believe a number of the other villages had YouTube uploads or Twitch streams. And there's just so many villages at DEF CON these days that, and so much content to go through. It's amazing.